Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Spyderco Gayle Bradley Advocate. First off though, I actually want to thank Spyderco for sending this guy along. That's right, this was provided to me directly from the maker. Spyderco reached out to me and said, hey Nick, we like your stuff. Do you want to take a look at the Advocate? What's the new version with the revisions? I said, well, sure, but I'm going to give you the full good, great, bad, and the ugly on it. Maybe a gem, maybe junk. Don't expect me to pull any punches. They said, yeah, no problem. And they sent it along, so great. Here we are. So I've tried not to let that influence my review, and we have to assume that this is going to be maybe better quality controlled than the norm, although Spyderco QC is usually pretty good anyways. But nonetheless, there you go, full disclosure. Next thing, let's do a size comparison here. This is not a small knife. Here it is against Spyderco Delica, Ontario Rat number 2, and your Ontario Rat number 1. And so you can see here, it's a big one. And in terms of blade length overall, it's not small. I mean, depending on how much the cop loves and hates you, you're coming in someplace right around 3.5 inches here. Maybe slightly more. I mean, like I said, it really depends. But it's right up at that 3.5-inch line there. And then, of course, here it is next to your Spyderco PM2. And then, actually, I want to do a comparison on the other dimension, because this knife is actually exceptionally thin. That was one thing I didn't quite understand from the process of doing. Because, I mean, really, look at that. That's really thin compared to the PM2, and even compared to the Delica. This guy is a little bit thinner than the Delica. And that's great. So anyways, there you go. That's your size comparison. Let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this particular pocket knife. First off, on the good side, this is a Gayle Bradley design. Gayle Bradley is the maker of, well, a number of designs for Spyderco, including the Gayle Bradley 2, and the Bradley Bowie. But look, he does great work, and specifically in the blade department. I love every damn thing that guy makes in terms of blades. The handles I don't always agree with, but the blades he does really, really well, and so it's nice to see another of his designs. Next thing, this is actually a surprisingly ergonomic knife. Even though you think that this is, being as thin as it is, that it might be hot, spotty, and unpleasant, it is absolutely not. This feels really nice. The clip was well positioned. I do like this in the hand, and given the fact that you can also choke up and use this as a finger choil, absolutely great. You get 2 comfortable grips out of it, maybe 3, yeah, I guess, if you're Michael Janich or something. But either way, it's an interesting knife, ergonomically speaking, and it works well. Next thing, the thinness of this guy is great, because it makes it really disappear in the pocket in a way that a much thicker knife can sometimes struggle to with. I'm absolutely a big fan of that thinness, 100%. Next thing, the lockup on this guy is absolutely rock solid. Even though it is a relatively thin piece of titanium, there is not a hint of play, there's not a hint of lack of smoothitude. It's absolutely good to go in that domain. And actually, speaking of the smoothness, with the revised internals here, which is the other thing I should highlight, this was actually, the backstory here is the Advocate was originally released using a different pivot system, using different bearings, different washers, etc. It had very, very thin washers that some people had said were dishing out, where we get little, basically, imprints of the individual bearings on there, and that caused the rough opening and whatnot. I'd actually had a number of knives with that pivot system and never experienced that problem, but, you know, this is a new version of the pivot that's designed to fix that issue. And, you know, honestly, whether it was a big deal or not initially, it's nice that they made the fix. That is a nice thing to see. Even if not everybody's having the issue, they're still willing to fix it, and they're willing to fix it throughout their lineup. So, to me, that's absolutely great. And the end result, actually, is a knife that is very smooth with a very nice action. The flipping action on this is great. I can completely stabilize my hand here. Boom. Absolutely 100% fires beautifully. And at no point does it ever fail to flip or anything like that. I mean, Spyderco is a little bit inconsistent on their flippers, especially detent-wise, but this one deploys reliably 100% of the time. And so that's absolutely great. Next thing on this guy, I do very much like the clip. The clip on this guy is really well positioned. It works very well. You can see it's canted nicely off to the side of the knife. And this is a beautiful thing because it controls the angle that this knife will hang in your pocket here. Sorry. Because as it's sitting there, it'll hang vertically and then it'll kind of slope off to the side there, which puts this pocket peck and flipper tab off to the side as you're reaching past it. It's just, it is well designed in that way, and it's actually a lot nicer to carry, coupled with that thickness, than I expected. And it is also an ambidextrous clip, by the way, so you can carry it left or right side. You can see it's drilled for both. So, that's a beautiful thing. Good. Next thing, the orange peel texture on here. This is probably one of the most robust textures you can put on titanium that's out there. There is No, it doesn't really show snail trails particularly well. I mean, yeah, you can beat it up, but let's face it, it's not going to look any uglier. Whoops, hashtag bias. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, orange peel textures absolutely hide wear very well, and they also provide some texturing to it, so there are some definite advantages to using that texture here. I happen to hate it, aesthetically speaking, but I can totally get why they would do it, and I think it offers some compelling options there. And then finally, this actually does have, although it's orange peeled on the face of it, it does have some nicely polished edges here. You can see that all of the edges of the titanium are beautifully polished, and honestly, that's nice. It gives this a little bit nicer aesthetic, again, when you're looking at it in 3 dimensions than you get normally. And so, to me at least, that's what's good here, is that it's got these polished edges. It's got a nice flipping action using these revised internals. The orange peel is super robust. It's very thin in the pocket, carries well with a good clip, with a nice solid lockup and a very, very ergonomic handle. Pardon me. On the great side, to me, unquestionably, the great thing about this knife is the blade. Gayle Bradley is a blade designer. Oh my God, is he good at making blades. I say that for a few reasons. I mean, to start with, it's a very nice blade shape in general, because you get flat down here, you get belly up here, you get a nice pointy tip here. The tip is not too fragile whatsoever, but it absolutely works. It is also got a very nice swedge to it. I mean, seriously, look at this. You get not only this, but you get this secondary grind at the top here. I love, love, love every part of this knife from here up. It is just so freaking gorgeous. And so I like the blade on this very much. But to add to that, the steel on this guy is M4, CPM M4 steel. And M4 is a steel that I love. It's not really commonly used, and it almost seems like it might be falling out of Spyderco's lineup, and that would be really sad. Because although M4 is not the most stainless steel on God's green earth, it is absolutely a beast in terms of edge retention, performance sorts of things, and in some ways is a little bit more balanced than Maximet, although given I haven't had as much experience with Maximet. So that's an incredible steel. And then finally, and maybe most importantly, this guy is ground to cut. This is super thin behind the edge. This thing cuts like nobody's freaking business, and I absolutely love it. There is zero concern with the cutting ability here, using this guy on foam, on cardboard, on boxes. It's just like it cuts and it cuts. It is great. And so I love this blade so damn much. This is a great functional blade shape that is absolutely spectacular. On the bad side, first off, there is no sharpening choil here. And in fact, you can already see the beginnings of a recurve going on here. With very, very careful sharpening, you can adapt to this. And of course, you can always use some kind of like a diamond shopmaker rod to give yourself a choil, but that's just not great. You can already see the recurve coming, and I don't appreciate that. Next thing, for me personally, I hate orange peel texturing because it looks permanently dirty to me. I mean, this knife is clean, and yet here it is. There's an out damn spot thing for me that I can't deal with here. It is grippy. It's got some advantages. This is entirely personal taste, and if you're looking at this going, that's beautiful, then good on you. But for me, I can't do it. But that's hashtag bias, whatever. Next thing, for me at least in my hands, the thumb ramp and the choil are weirdly positioned, because it feels like the choil wants my hand to be further up here and the thumb ramp is further down. And I realized after some time the thumb ramp is really designed to be holding it in this way, and the finger choil is, I don't exactly know how you're supposed to use it with the choil there, but it is kind of it's a little bit of a weird thing, and honestly, this might not be a finger choil by design. It may just be that for somebody with smaller fingers, this works out well, but either way, that's a little bit strangely put, but all of the things so far have been roughly nitpicks. Next thing, this is a Spyderco, so it's got the spider hole, and it does in fact have this little area here that allows you to get at the hole at all. The thing is, the spider hole is not super easy to access on this guy. On a lot of Spydercos, it's just like, you really can't slide your finger by without hitting it, but on this guy, it is a little bit trickier, absolutely. You can get in there, and you can even flick it out if you want to, and you can even get at it from this side here. Like, let's see if I can do this, because you kind of need to catch the fleshy finger. There we go. You can do it, but it's just not super accessible. And given the fact that the detent is dialed in for flipping, so it is a little bit harder than you might expect out of a thumb opening knife, it's not necessarily great if you're looking at this as being a knife that you'll want to use primarily with the spider hole. It works, it'll be fine, but yeah. And then finally, on the bad side, the tip of this guy is very, very close in the back here. I'm going to see if I can kind of show this off, but you can see the tip is right there. And so if I just kind of drag my finger her over here, I do feel that tip right there. And is it a big deal? Is it a tragedy? No. And frankly, I'm not super worried about it, but it is something that's a little sketchy. And considering that this knife is already right on that edge of 3.5 inches, such that an angry police officer could easily arrest you on 3.5 laws. I'd love to see that dialed back just a little tiny smidge, because it'd make the tip safer and make it a little bit more legally clear, if you will. So, to me, those are the bad things, is that the tip is pretty close in the back, although it's not quite to the point where it's dangerous. The spider hole is a little bit hard to access, although you can use it, certainly. The thumb ramp and choil are a little bit weirdly positioned, but that could be my hands. The orange peel texture personally drives me completely nuts, but that's just me. And there is no sharpening choil here, and that's not great. On the ugly front, to me, the only ugly thing here is, holy pocket pecker. Oh my God, is this flipper tab crazy? I mean, seriously, if we'll use the PM2 here to simulate a tree, this thing is just going to be pecking on whatever's in your pocket all damn day long. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, the way that it's oriented in the pocket makes that a little better than some. As does the fact that if we look closely here, you can see that there's a chamfer all around the flipper tab, which means that this is more rounded and less awful than some other pocket peckers out there in the world, but man, is this thing super prominent. And so, although I like very much the knife in hand, carrying it wise, that was always a little bit frightening. And it's prominent enough that it'll catch on things, lift your keys out of your pocket, that kind of thing. A little harder, you need to be at the right angle, but still. So to me at least, though, that's the only ugly thing, is that this has a crazy big pocket pecker on there, and I'm not a huge fan of that. That's the ugly here. On the final conclusion front, look, this is actually a knife I liked a lot more than I expected to. Because I'd always seen this from afar. I'd seen it in catalogs and pictures, that kind of thing, and every damn time I just couldn't get past the looks. I looked at this knife, and especially this orange peel, and just thought, oh, I can't do it. And given that it is not an inexpensive knife, absolutely not. This is a pricey piece. But given the steel, given the construction, given the design, and the fact that it's ground, I'm okay with that price. But for me, at least, that was always a deal breaker. And then when it was revealed to have the earlier mechanical issues, there was a part of me that was definitely like, okay, whew, good. I don't have to buy one of those just to do the review. But look, when I actually get one in hand here, and I probably wouldn't have picked one up except for it being sent to me because of that hashtag bias against the orange peel there, I'll be honest with you here, but once I got it in hand, it's actually really excellent. This is a textbook case of Spyderco knives with their little slogan of, we design for the hands, not for the eyes. That's this right here, 100%, because it is a really excellent cutting tool. It's got a really nice ergonomic handle, which I'd underestimated given the thinness. It's got a really solid flipping action, at least on the new version. The revised internals get rid of the concern that it had previously, and the blade on this guy is just so damn good. If every knife in my collection had this blade, I sure wouldn't mind it, or at least one as good as it. And so at some level, yeah, it's got the absolutely impressive pocket pecker. The orange peel does look permanently dirty, at least to me, and I'd love to see that tip pulled back a little tiny bit there, but this is ultimately a seriously functional knife that will cut for days and days, both literally and figuratively, and it is absolutely great in the hand as you do so. So, although, it wasn't for me aesthetically, it probably still isn't, this is a knife that I have absolutely zero trouble advocating for your collection. Hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.